Hey, there it is.
Hello.
Oh, man. Looking almost professional, except for if I could get situated before the stream starts. That would be great. All right. How is everybody today? Welcome back to the semi-bi-weekly podcast. I give it another couple months before we can like officially classify it as bi-weekly.
Well, welcome back to the first podcast. It'll be the first one every time.
Every, like, Groundhog Day.
We started over fresh. It's the first one.
Oh, man. So, how is everyone doing? Welcome back to Player Tuesday. This is a podcast in which John and I here sit and talk about whatever in the heck we feel like it. Most of the time, it's about video games, though. So, if you like video games, then you're in the right place.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, man. So we like to start our cast off here with a little bit of catch-up. And yes, I know it's spelled incorrectly. It's for humor's sake. If you don't have a sense of humor, or you don't like cringy, corny jokes, I'm sorry, this probably isn't for you.
It's going to be a rough ride.
But we like them, so we're going to do them.
The stream is sure to be cringe-tastic, just for you.
As I always say, my life is one big cringe fest, so I just kind of embrace it. Cringe has become part of who I am as an individual. So,
Born this way, I know no other way.
like Lady Gaga, born this way. But anyway, so what have we been up to since the last podcast? Well, finally, if you've been paying attention to the Twitch channel here, I was finally able to hook up a retro console and actually stream some retro games, which was really, really fun. Played a few hours of Super Metroid, and I got to Fantoon and got my butt handed to me.
Oh, Curtis.
I know it. I can partially blame the controller. I was using this Hyperkin thing that's right there, and about 1 out of 15 right D-pad presses would also add a down motion. So if I was wall jumping or doing something like that, Samus would partially crouch because you have to hit 2 in order to go in the morph ball. But yeah, it just kind of threw the whole groove of things off and made for some really bad gameplay. So I did pick up another cheap regular SNES controller, and I'm hoping that fixes the issue. Hopefully. I mean, it is used, and they are notorious for getting sticky and spongy, so I don't know.
Yeah,
It's got a warranty, so if it's bad, I'll just take it back. But yeah. And then Sunday, streamed some Axiom Verge, and holy crap, I finally got into the really, really good section of the game. And story really picked up, gave you some plot line, and crazy things happened. So if you missed it, be sure to either hit the YouTube channel or my previous videos here and check it out, because it was a lot of fun. And I'm getting to the point where the game isn't quite as hard because you don't die in one hit. So it's becoming a little bit more forgiving. Not much though. It'll still punish you if you make mistakes. But yeah, so that's going really, really well. And yeah. And in some downtime, I picked back up Super Mario World. I've been trying to speed run that again, which is an ordeal. Like I said, especially with that messed up controller, it was really, really noticeable. On top of that, I realized just how much input lag the Retron 5 has. I thought it had a lot less while playing Super Metroid, but a game where I'm familiar with going pretty fast in, holy crap, it must have been at least 15 to 20 milliseconds of input delay at times. Especially if things got a little hairy with a lot of sprites on screen. It was stupid. But yeah, that's what I was into. Whole lot of video games. What about you, John?
Nah. I don't know. I did some stuff.
I love Super Mario World. Played that the most as a kid till Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time. That's what that means. Came out. Yes, I agree. I definitely grew up on Super Mario World.
Yeah, me too, actually. Yeah, that and perhaps Donkey Kong Country. I think those were my
Donkey Kong?
my starters.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of our generation's starters.
The platformers, sure.
Oh yeah.
Even my later early were Super Metroid and
yeah. You were the one that got me interested in that. I remember in elementary school, you brought the little instruction booklet to school with you, and we're showing the different
cool
worlds. It was a really cool book.
They used to, man.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah,
dude.
you don't even make video game booklets anymore, do they? Back in the day, they used to, and they were pretty cool.
Ooh, speaking
they had
of really cool
illustrations
books,
and
I got one. Commence the podcasting, John.
all right, well, while he's doing that, what did I do this past week? I actually I was just looking to. I got a little tired of Borderlands 2.
Yeah,
so
me
I
too.
just played a couple of other things, and I went back and I just played a little bit of Call of Juarez Gunslinger, which I had picked up a while ago. I was trying to think when it came out. It might have been
it's a fairly
2012 or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's fairly old. Like it's not.
It might have been a little later. See, I've never played any of the Call of Juarez series. And I could probably mostly blame that on the Cartel. Call of Juarez the Cartel.
Yeah.
Because I saw a gameplay trailer of that one time. Or I'm sorry, I think I saw a review of it one time, and I was like, oh man, that looks like any other shooter. I never thought much about it. But a long while ago, I picked up a game and I played a little bit of it, and I thought it was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I was playing it again, and I thought maybe I should look into the series, and I didn't realize that it was more like this. But the Gunslinger's it's almost like an arcade setup, almost like an arcade shooter, because the way the framework works is it's a guy who's telling a story, and so he's telling tales, and each level's featured around one of his tales, but also they play with the metafictional nature of it by, like, something will happen and then it'll turn out that didn't really happen. It was something somebody else had heard, and this is the real story.
Oh, so you gotta, like, dig up the truth and almost like...
Not really. It just has fun with it.
Almost L.A. Noir or whatever.
Yeah, nothing like that. It's just a game that has fun with itself, and it's all about just getting headshots and getting your points, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's a cool little game. And
nice.
If any of the rest of the series is like it, it's probably worth checking out at some point. But I've never actually played them. And then I went to my folks, my parents' house last week. They're living down in Martinsville now. They moved there maybe a year ago, I guess. They're still getting things ready. They've got an above ground pool.
What?
And they just now this year they got it running last year, but they'd only it was like August, I think, when they got it running. So it was up for like a week, and then they had to shut it down. But so this year they were more prepared, and they got a deck put on it. It's pretty nice. I'm glad. I know my mother really wanted a pool, so.
You chilling poolside now? Working on your tan?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Skinny dipping. I hear it adds color to your cheeks.
What was that about crunch?
That's more of a dad joke.
That's a terrible joke.
It's a little bit of cringe mixed with some dad. But yeah, you were talking about cool instruction booklets.
Oh.
So PS1 game here, Legend of the Dragoon, has an amazing little instruction guide with it, and it's like all these cutscene photos and like really cool background. They add some like art and whatnot throughout it, and man, as you could tell by the poor shape this thing's in, I flipped through this little booklet so much growing up. Like there for a while I wanted to be a game designer. And so, like, I was always looking for inspiration and things like that. And, man, like, any book that had art like that, I was eating it up. But, yeah. Now that some people have trickled in here, I do want to announce we are still giving away this copy of Dominion. To enter, literally, the only thing you have to do is type in !raffle, RAFFLE, and you will be entered to win as soon as I activate the giveaway in like 2 seconds. So, yeah, give me 2 seconds here.
We're not going to take your information. We're not going to sell it to the highest bidder.
Hang on, Kenny, it's not ready yet. Okay. Oh, there you go, Katie. Now you can enter !raffle in order to enter to win. Hey, we got one. So we are guaranteed somebody is going to win this thing this week. Holy moly. All right. So that should in essence, come up with a thing and say you have entered to win. If not, I will keep track of all of the entries, enter it in a straw pool or random.io, and then do it manually if Streamlabs does not cooperate. So
We'll put your name in a die and he'll roll it.
yeah, D20 style, like boom, Dungeons and Dragons.
Showing their colors.
Oh boy, so we should probably get into the old tidbits here. We broke out the D&D. We're looking super nerdy right now. So yeah, why don't we?
Well, the hobby game doesn't help that much.
It's
A
fine.
little Legend of Dragoon booklet. I think we're pretty well established.
It's all good.
Welcome.
I
Welcome,
am
fellow
who
nerds.
I am. So anyway, so tidbits. These are just little odds and ends news stories that aren't really worth a feature, but we felt were cool enough or could make a good enough joke out of to add to the stream. So yeah, in essence of this, and to add to the cringe factor of things, John and I write segues for each other, and we're going to try our best not to read them before stream, so as you get our live reaction to how cringy these things can be. So, yeah. That's tidbits. Anyway, a wild Ashadian appears. What's going on, Kyle? You still living out in Utah? How many wives you got now? No, that's a joke we used to make with him before he moved. We're like, man, you're going to be like Mormon with like 6 wives, and it's all good. No judgment here. We're cringy folk.
Are you not so tight with any of them? Do you have any hookups for me?
Oh, man. So, anyway, I'm never in Utah. Yeah, that's all right. He does work out of town a lot. So, anyway, I hope you have a craving for marshmallows. The 4th season of Veronica Mars, scheduled for release on July 26, arrived early this weekend, coming 12 years after its last aired episode and 5 years after the Kickstarter-funded film. This new run of 8 episodes can be found on Hulu. I have no idea what the marshmallow reference is. Can you please explain that?
Okay, it's like in the pilot episode. She is called a marshmallow by Wallace. The idea, I think, alluding to how she appears tough on the outside, but she's actually soft on the inside.
Oh.
But it ended up being picked up as sort of like big fans of the show will call each other marshmallows and such. It ended up being one of those, I don't know, called a cult handshake, so to speak.
Cool.
Cult show handshake. It's a pretty good little series.
Like, what's it about? Is it just like...
It's sort of like a an episodic what do you even call those?
Carnival?
Like a crime procedural almost, but mixed with like an OC drama, which it's really hard to explain. It's in a lot of ways like those cult movies we were trying to get through. Which, hey, elephant in the room, we'll have to go over that at some point. But
Yeah.
but it's like a cult TV show, so it's one that's hard exactly to narrow down. There's nothing quite like it, but the best approximation I can give you is that it's really kind of surreal. It almost, while trying to be very grounded, it comes across as kind of a fantasy almost. So.
Okay, so it's like the Warframe of TV shows. You can't really put a label on it, and it's a little bit of everything.
Sure.
All right, it's your turn, dude.
Wait a minute, but if it's like the Warframe, then I am putting a label. All right. On the top, Curtis, damn it. On the topic of crappy stories getting rebooted, Mortal Kombat film gets a remake due to hit theaters March 5th, 2021. All we can hope for is that Rammstein will be doing the theme song for this Aussie-made film, because if history serves us right, the story of the movie will be an afterthought.
Do you enjoy that?
I did.
I did too. Yeah, so Mortal Kombat, like, notoriously known for being a pretty good fighting game up front, but the storyline is always kind of an afterthought. Granted, the newest one was okay.
I would say that that's at first, there was no real story, but although they did have a booklet, but yes, it was definitely an afterthought. But definitely certainly by the time they did the remake in 2009, or Mortal Kombat, was it 11? No, it was 2011. That's why. Okay. Anyway, when they did the remake. They had established some lore at that point. It was retroactive, but it had a decent story. I heard they completely reworked everything.
Oh man, it is a hot freaking dumpster fire at the end of 11. Yeah, like end of 11, you basically look at it and you're like, this is their way out. Like this is how they completely circumvent the entire storyline and fix things. So I'm not going to spoil it for you because you may play it, but yeah, I would definitely.
I feel like I have to now.
Yeah, I would at least find like a streamer or a let's play of it and like watch the story mode. But
that's how I watched the last two games.
Yeah, that's how I did too.
The remake and its sequel.
Yep, that's exactly what I did.
It was a nice waste of time. It's pretty well put together.
It's entertaining enough not to be like, oh god, this sucks. But
if it was like that, I wouldn't spend 3-4 hours on it. How long?
Yeah, usually when they come out, I spend a solid hour just watching all the fatalities. And then I'll go in and watch the storyline just because the fatalities are always awesome.
That's what you came for.
Exactly. In the world of Anthem, a storm is raging. No, it's not the sound of renewed player interest in this broken-ass game. But rather that of a new update for the game, prefaced by the sighting of a massive storm. So be prepared for Cataclysm to launch any day now. It should be exciting for all two of you still playing. Whoo, man, we put the salt in these this time. Good. Dang.
You know, I've never actually played Anthem, but actually, despite all the negative criticism I've seen, I still don't think it can be that bad. But
I don't know, dude. I don't know, dude. See, and Anthem's one of those weird use cases where I know people that swear by the game and they're like, man, this is such a fantastic game and like everybody should play it. And then I know so many, like equally as many people that are like, don't even touch it. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Like just move on. And
see, and you know what? I think it actually is? I would think maybe there's something that makes it a niche game that divides people. But I think what it actually is there's too much preconceived expectations tied into way too much reviewer bias all over the place.
And that could be a good topic to discuss, like how to properly review something without just blatantly like crapping your bias all over it.
And can it even be done?
In lies the $1 million question.
Making streams while we're streaming. Yeah, boy.
Oh, yeah. Gotta get that planning. Let me get that. Oh, jeez. I gotta find a better way to do this. This is a nightmare.
What do you do when someone disagrees with your opinion that kale is the next replacement for fossil fuels? Just make them disappear.
Murder them. Just kidding.
Twitter releases hide replies option, allowing posters to hide conversations deemed irrelevant or offensive. I.e. Donald Trump. No, that's not here. This is mildly controversial due to the fact that so many people gather their information from social media sources. And this update makes it easier to hide the people who correct these sources.
Yeah, so I could see a lot of good use for this. If you're making a post and you get a bunch of trolls, like just hide the trolls and whatever. But I could see where this would be abused. And that's why it's so controversial, is because when you look at cases like this, you kind of have to go by like worst case scenario, because most of the time that's just how it works.
Well, how does it's just hiding the replies for you, right?
Well, think of it like this. So
allowing posters to hide. I can't read and read at the same time. Allowing posters to hide conversations. Okay, I see.
Yeah. So basically, like if.
But it's the equivalent of disabling comments on YouTube, isn't it?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Except for disable comments disables everybody's comment. So if you make a post and you're like, sticking a fork in an electrical...
So they're able to hide each individual, like, replies individually? Or does it blanket hide?
Individually.
Okay.
So yeah, basically if you go on Twitter and you're like, the best way to recharge your electrolytes is to stick a fork in an electrical socket. Granted, that's extreme. I know this. But, so...
I would argue that if you hide all the negative replies on that and only take in the people that are supporting it, and 10 people die from sticking a fork in an electric socket, maybe it's as should be.
Yeah, and like kind of insert situation.
If you get all your information from Twitter, maybe that's not such a good thing.
We have been preaching this for years, but so many people still do it. And it's just one of those things where kind of insert situation here, like add bad situation and then subtract all the positive information people are trying to give, just so bad situation poster can look better. And that's kind of the general selection. I was reading the chat as I said that, hashtag natural selection. Yes, that you may be onto something there. But yeah, so just hide all your problems. It's fine. They'll go away. Your turn.
Actually, I believe that's you.
Is that me?
Read
Oh yeah, you just read. Derp. I can't read. Avengers Endgame is officially a hulking success, surpassing Avatar as the highest grossing film ever. While one might not need an eagle eye or a hawk eye to envision this, oh god, it's so painful, it's still impressive. And it's neat to note that we could live in a time where the feat might be accomplished for the last time, never again to be Captain America's film history.
Captain America's film history.
Like, see what you did
That was
there?
a little forceful.
Woo.
And terrible. And you're welcome.
Yeah, I embrace it. I accept it. Yeah, that's actually really interesting that it outgrossed Avatar, because Avatar was a freakish phenomenon when it happened.
Was it 787 million, something like that?
I don't know. Probably enough to fund a small third world country.
No. That can't be right. Because I'm pretty sure it hit it was 2.87 billion, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more believable.
But that being said, it's actually domestically. I'm trying to think which Star Wars film was it. Last Jedi? I don't want to misspeak on this, although too late a little bit. But it's short. One of the Star Wars films. I think one of the ones that just came out by. No. Yeah, probably one of the ones that just came out. 80 million. I'm not totally sure. But also, adjusted for inflation. It's proposed that Gone with the Wind would have made $3.4 billion had it come.
That's crazy. That's more money.
So highest grossing film ever with caveats. I feel like.
Yeah, with quotations, and that's pretty wild that one movie can bring in that much money. It's easy to say 2 point something or 1 point something billion. But when you try to wrap your head around that many zeros after something, that's a lot of freaking money. Oh, man. So, yeah. Kudos to the team that shot and produced Endgame. That's a pretty big feat there. Especially outgrossing a film that It came out like a year ago.
What?
In-game.
Oh, in-game.
Or was it less
It's
than a year?
less. It's got to be less than. Didn't it come out this year?
I don't know. I can't remember. I watched it in theaters. I just don't remember.
I still haven't seen it, actually.
Really?
Really?
Actually, in game. Oh, I'm thinking of the first. Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Oh, you haven't yet?
Oh,
yeah, I did see that other one.
Yeah,
whatever that one was called.
Yeah, first game.
First game. Primary
It was a
game.
good movie. The Thanos did the thing and was purple, and it was great. Good film. 10 out of 10. You hear it first here, Player Tuesday.
My favorite one was the adult male in the tights. Which one was that?
I believe that was everybody. But right.
Last highest grossing blue cat people. Next highest grossing adult men running around in tights. Oh, America. Just kidding. All right.
Let's get into our features. This one will break down a little bit more in detail.
Which we'll do. I'll try to not go too long. As you see.
Man, I'm kind of proud of you. That's a lot of research in that topic. That's a big old doc right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also not I'm not feeling super strong at it, but we'll get there when we get there.
It's all good.
So last week there was a Senate hearing, and it was held to question whether or not they would allow Facebook to produce their own cryptocurrency, which they had plans to produce. It's called Libra. And the hearing ended, and I think there was some uncertainty, some concerns over it for sure. Some uncertainty even on what the Libra exactly is. Some experts on cryptocurrencies wouldn't even classify it as a cryptocurrency. So to talk about Libra, I guess first we got to establish what a cryptocurrency actually is. And this is the part where I've done a bit of research on this, but I am by no means an expert on economics, let alone the digital economy. So, grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen. If you're uncertain about anything I say, please, by all means, go out and research it yourself if you're interested in it.
Yeah, and that's absolutely how it should be anyway. Like, don't ever get all of your information from one source. Like, please do your research. Don't be a Twitter person.
Fire. But I'll do my best to be as accurate as possible on this. So I think it's easiest to use Bitcoin as an example. It's like the premier cryptocurrency. And what separates Bitcoin from being as a cryptocurrency from other digital currencies is that, well, for one, here we go. All right. For one, the way Bitcoin works is it has a public ledger. It's called a blockchain. And the blockchain is basically a network that's maintained by a network of various computers. And the transactions that take place in the public ledger are supposed to be pretty secure, virtually impossible to hack. Doubtful. I suppose, but I don't know. This is a place where I'm not going to know so much. There are claims that it's even more secure than in real life currency, so no idea. But the other thing about it is with the public ledger is that everyone has access to it. As long as you have an internet connection and you have the hardware, you can maintain access to the public ledger, and so as such, it's decentralized, meaning there's no regulation going on. The government's not involved. There's no organizations covering it. No
FDIC.
Right. It's completely individual to individual basis. What that also means, it means a couple things. One thing it means is that no one else has their hands on your money except for you and the folks you're trading with. The other thing it means is that the value of the coin is based upon what you're willing to sell or what you're willing to buy for. It's not based on any other currency or anything along that line.
And this is why 1 week you can see Bitcoin being valued at like $9,000 a coin, and then 2 weeks later it's valued at like a few dollars.
Right. So yeah, real volatile upswings. And so part of the reason Libra's question is whether or not it's even actually a cryptocurrency is because they have a blockchain too. But their ledger, unlike Bitcoin's, is actually Bitcoin's is permissionless, and oh goodness gracious,
Libra?
the Libra will be permissioned.
Got you.
There's like a group of so far 28 businesses that are getting together, have a headquarters. I think it's out in Switzerland. Some bigger corporations like Visa, Uber, I think Facebook itself.
Got you.
But they're paying $10 million, I think, a piece.
Holy crap.
In order to get in on this. But they'll act, this group, they're trying to get it up to 100. Well, on the very least, there's speculation that it'll get up to 100 by the time it's done.
Yeah.
Businesses in this little commission, so to speak. And that group will be the intermediary regulators on the site. They're the only ones who will be able to actually affect the to maintain and to affect the the transaction
Got
on
you.
the site. Oops. So so what that ultimately means is that kind of the idea of a cryptocurrency of not having any regulation on your money is gone to a degree. Possibly, arguably, even worse. It's it's all how you feel, but I mean, don't we bitch about corporations all day long? Bitch about the government too, but that's a hard head-to-head there.
And it's kind
the
of
other.
Well, I'll let you go ahead.
I was just going to wrap it and say that the other thing is that it's the Libra will be considered a stable coin. That's the term that's used. It won't have the volatile upswings, or at least it shouldn't have the volatile upswings that Bitcoin does. And it's because their currency is supposed to be pegged to various currencies in real life. The dollar to I don't know, other currencies, just a number of currencies. In fact, to the point where it's predicted that perhaps it'll end up becoming more stable than some of the currencies it's even based upon. The idea is that in theory, if it gets centralized, it could possibly eventually be even more stable than the US dollar, which would be a selling point for the Libra.
And it what kind of concerns me about it is, it sounds like to me that the coin stability is based off of those few companies that are helping back it, and that as soon as those companies' money dries up or one of them goes bankrupt or something like that, the value of the coin will like exponentially drop and just fall out. And I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think it's built that way. It's not the money they've put in. I don't think, because that'll already be there. It's not. Essentially, they paid to be regulators.
Okay, so they're just regulators. They're not like actually.
They're supposed to be nonprofit. I don't know.
That's interesting.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. Everything's a conspiracy to some degree, but and we'll get to that question. First, let me ask you this: the way I see it, there's essentially two distinct mentalities when it comes to cryptocurrencies. There are folks that see that Oh, there are folks that feel like they're better off regulating their own funds, that banks are just composed of thieves and liars, and that they would rather not have anybody tied to these organizations that have proved to fail in the past to have access to their money. They would rather just regulate it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then you have folks, and then you have folks, which is where cryptocurrency comes into play, in that there's no organizations touching your money. It's all on you. Of course, though, you're still, if something should happen to your money, if something goes wrong, there's no security in that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which is, I imagine, where the other mentality lies, where you would go through a bank because your money should be secure.
Yeah, it's insured, it's secure, like,
and they'll deal with a bit of hassle. They'll deal with folks potentially invading their privacy to some degree.
yeah.
But they'll deal with that because they feel safer and more comfortable, and which is certainly where I lie. I was wondering about you, though, if you would ever, what you think about cryptocurrency, if you would ever trust it.
I don't trust it, at least for now, until, because a lot of times what you run into with cryptocurrency mining, and coming from the hardware side of things, the hardware that is used to mine cryptocurrency is expensive. And like when Ethereum a little while back came into play, people were buying up video cards left and right. I was fortunate enough to get mine like 2 weeks before like they exploded. And which now they're of course a lot cheaper, but most of the time what you're going to run into is you spend all this money building these mining machines and you might break even. On a home level, yeah, you can make probably a few $100s a month. And but how long is that going to last? Like, granted, the whole Facebook cryptocurrency, they're advertising it as, you know, it's more stable and things like that, but I just don't trust.
To the point where the Libra might not even really be a cryptocurrency. I mean, it's centralized. I mean, that's even kind of the goal of it. There's regulation over it. And it's really not designed to, in the same way that Bitcoin and others are designed as almost these, seemingly in some ways, these get rich quick schemes.
Yeah.
It's really not designed for that. In fact, what ultimately seems to be the goal, and at least what Facebook's saying, is that with the Libra, they want to produce sort of a centralized, a global currency. The idea that eventually the economy, to some degree, might recognize the Libra as one of the primary currencies, and the fact that it would be international. That actually leads me to my other question. I wonder if that were the case. I could see some positives to having a currency like that. That more or less every nation can respect, and it would make cross-border transactions much smoother and that kind of thing. But what I wonder is, would you trust Facebook to helm such a responsibility?
Well, I guess the Facebook has the monetary backing to help get something like this off the ground. But again, like, I just don't trust cryptocurrency as a whole because it's proven itself to be so unstable. Honestly, if they pull it off, that's great. But I really, I don't trust Facebook with something so broad and so new to them, because yes, they know how to run social media and things like that and network to people, but do they really know enough about global finances to really like...
Actually, personally, I would worry a little bit about them in an ethical way. I mean, hell, Cambridge Analytica was just a year or two ago.
Yeah.
This company is so often found just not respecting the needs of their users at all.
Yeah.
The sensitive data, the privacy, trample it constantly. They don't give a crap.
Nah.
It's pretty clear where that company is focused. It's pretty clear that the only color Zuckerberg sees is green. It's pretty clear that that's what their focus
because
is.
that's the only thing his robot eyes can see is the color green. He's on dot matrix, man. He's running like original Game Boy graphics.
He's got the monochrome eyes. But I don't know if I trust a company that's been like that to have such power, to be able to wield, to sit at the top of the food chain like
No
that.
way. No freaking way. But, oh, right. So, our next piece of news here. So, Season 4 of PUBG will now have a story backed with lore. So, it looks like the newest update, which I didn't know this, apparently the map called Erangel.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it had a name.
Oh, I didn't either.
But
I mean, I knew after I read your little...
I think I've
blurb.
played all of like 2 seconds of PUBG, but just because I'm not a big Battle Royale fan. But anyway, so yeah, a new cinematic trailer released, and yeah, it not only did the patch kind of clean up graphics and all of that, but they showed off some story to the game where a young boy grows up, sees the end of the world and all the destruction, and learns how to live and thrive in it. And yeah, apparently that is how PUBG is going to be rolling now. Which honestly kind of brings up a couple questions. One, at least to me, a battle royale doesn't need to have story. It just needs to have good gameplay, good mechanics, like just drop me in the map, let me go at it. Like, I don't need an explanation of why I'm hitting a guy with a frying pan.
Sure.
Like, so I guess I want to ask you, how do you feel about...
I wouldn't say that it needs it, but I also don't think it takes anything away. And in fact, I think what it really does is add some for those who care about that sort of thing. A real quick side note is that for Fortnite, as someone pointed to just a second ago, I mean, they in some sense they actually do have a story as well that runs through their seasons. I don't know how centralized it really is, but the events lead into one another. They're based off of things happening at that time. I'd say it all just depends on how the narrative's interlaced. If they're, and from what I could find about this, it sounds like it's just some additional lore to recontextualize everything you're doing. But if in theory you could just go in there and keep playing the game the same way you've been playing it,
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't have, cutscenes or anything of that nature, if it just plays like it plays, and you could effectively just ignore all the narrative they add in, then really that narrative is simply there for those players that care enough to want it, to want a little bit of context to what they're playing. In other words, so I don't think, unless it's getting in the way of gameplay, I think the only thing it really does is add and accentuate what's already there. The one last thing I'd point to is, I think a great example of this is actually Warframe. That game, for so many years, it was just missions where you get in your, where you pull up your little spacesuit figurine and you go in and you kill some enemies and you grab some loot, run some missions, and that's all there is. And they have this big, grand, epic story that was almost retroactive, even though they were playing. It seems, well, I would say to some degree they had been planning it for some time, and that one's more that one more aggressively takes. It's kind of hard to miss that story, but at the same time, it's not like it takes away from the experience. If anything, it adds to it. So
Yeah. And I don't know.
That would be my answer.
Maybe it's just where I'm not a big Battle Royale fan to begin with. Like, I don't quite understand. But, I guess, like, in the end, to each their own. I mean, everybody's going to end up liking something a little bit different. And I could understand where trying something fresh and new is a good idea, especially in the instance of, like, Battle Royale, just because it is so repetitive that, I don't know, maybe having a little bit of story as to why what you're doing isn't such a bad thing, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I hadn't ever noticed Battle Royales adding lore before. That's why I was like, that's pretty interesting. But anyway, so with all of our features now out of the way, why don't we crack into the old main topic here, because this one's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna talk about tonight is the permanence of video game constructs. And John, what does that mean?
Well, what I mean is pretty simply, I want to look at fixtures in the video game world, and over time, like everything else, they erode and they disappear. Things that we once knew and once loved, things like arcades are pretty much done for. But at one time, Atari, what's Atari? But at one time, these were the big names. This was the big thing. If you were going to play a video game, you'd go over to the arcade. Hundreds of thousands of quarters must have been eaten by those cabinets.
I remember stories of when, well, I don't remember. I literally just watched a documentary on this because it was before I was born. But where Nintendo came into the scene with their Donkey Kong machine.
Yeah.
And companies were Nintendo themselves were making like $200-$300 a week. And that's after maintenance, after all of that. Like, that was just raw bottom line they were bringing in per cabinet.
Yeah.
And this is when they first started. I mean, you got to think into consideration, too, like... Well, this is getting off topic, but...
Well, to some degree. But yeah. The point is that something that was was at one point so large and an important part of video gaming is now suddenly gone, just because time passed, technology got better. Actually, a little blurb I was thinking of that I was going to say with this is that maybe unlike any other entertainment medium, that crossroads of creative vision and technological capability is even more important for video games, because you really, as a developer, you really are hamstrung by what you can do with the technology you have. But at the same time, the technology you have can spur on advancements that maybe weren't thought of before. But by thinking about the technology you have access to, it might spark an idea. And I think that there's that back and forth role that as technology gets greater and as people think and ponder that it just advances in such a way, I suppose. But anyway, so what we wanted to do was take a look at some of the video game fixtures of today. Make a list of the things that are of a number of things that are prominent in our in in our video gaming world now, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and discuss how long we think they'll last. Will they last forever, or
Yeah, and we have
here today, here to stay, or here today, gone tomorrow?
there's three main questions we want to kind of touch on as we go through the list of things here. And number one is, does the listed item have an expiration date? And if it does, how long we think it'll last, why it will end, and will something else replace it? But if our answer is no, it doesn't have an expiration date, what about it makes it timeless? So we're just going to kind of like, for the time's sake, because we could talk for hours and hours on this, just kind of like go down the list and give our yes and no and just kind of talk about it. And
Yeah, we got 10 items here, so
yeah.
you wanna start it, Curtis?
Yeah, actually, and this one I'm actually really excited to talk about because it's an old technology that's kind of gained new headway here recently, and that is virtual reality. And I honestly think this isn't going anywhere. I really do believe that this is going to be the future of gaming. Not in the instance that, everyone's going to be doing it, but in the use cases of the enthusiast. So like with racing game enthusiasts, you have the people that have like the actual sim setups with the steering wheels and the pedals, and they all give force feedback and everything's super responsive. I think virtual reality is going to end up falling in line with that because, one, racers already love VR headsets. And any way you can immerse yourself further in the game you're super passionate about, people are going to jump on it. Whether it's Skyrim, racing games, like whatever it is. So I think it's going to stay for a long, long time. It may not look the same, but virtual reality honestly isn't going to go anywhere.
Actually, yeah, pretty much. I think the same way. I think that it may update. I mean, of course, the systems we have now are going to improve.
Oh yeah,
there's some issues they still have to actually tackle, like motion sickness.
yeah.
But I think that before virtual reality dies off, and you're right, they actually did have practical applications of it. Well, practical as far as video games.
You remember the Virtual Boy?
Before. I was even thinking
Monochrome red.
You go to carnivals, you go to amusement parks. They used to
Oh, yeah.
sell those little virtual experience. I guess I never did it. Probably the same deal, but
I was always too young when it was around.
But anyway, I think this time around though, I think it's an effective enough piece of equipment, and that it does really change the way games work enough.
Oh yeah.
That I mean, it's an update enough in technology that I think it'll probably stick around until the next thing replaces it. I don't think it'll die off before. I think whatever it's going to evolve into will take it over before it actually dies out.
Yeah. But with I was gonna say, with you saying that, I feel like number 2 would be a good talking point.
Actually, the first 3, I'm holding back a little bit because the first 3 I think actually might all revolve around each other. But why don't you go ahead with number 2 then?
Okay, so number 2 is augmented reality. Currently, as it sits, AR is not quite what you would think. So you would think AR and VR are the same thing. The only difference is AR is augmented. So basically you're taking real world and you're augmenting or adding to it with whatever it is that's displaying. So think of it like Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Where you're looking around with your phone for Pokemon. You're looking in the real world. The game is adding the Pokemon into the game. This, I feel, again, is going to fall wayside to the niche sort of genres where...
I would actually argue that maybe it's already there. I mean, I know Pokemon Go is crazy popular, but
Yeah, and I think until they make a mobile VR headset that you wear and it adds everything in real time and it's not off of your cell phone, I don't think it'll really gain any sort of traction. Just because, like, AR on your phone is neat, but ultimately it's not immersive enough for me to jump in. Now, if I'm wearing a headset and say, like, a laser tag arena, and you can, like, make it look super post-apocalyptic or something like that, and it really immerses you into the gameplay, I would totally be down for some AR laser tag.
or pink and purple, and you're shooting with your glitter gun.
Yeah. Fortnite?
Oh man.
But yeah, so I think until AR really gets a grasp on like how to fully augment reality, I don't think it's really going to go anywhere. And I think it'll be kind of like the Virtual Boy and just kind of die off for a few years until VR gets good enough to where they can start playing with AR once again.
Yeah, I actually think fairly similarly on that aspect. I'll get to that in just a second. I think that, I guess I actually think the same about the whole thing. Actually, AR has been around for a little bit, even before Pokemon Go and, the Harry Potter game and that. And there's been a few others before they got popular in that style of AR game. The idea of AR is that of augmented reality is that the game is taking place in the real world. Yeah. So there might be a game where, or they had games like, it was things like there would be a physical location you had to go to that would lead you to a web address, which might have codes, and once you solve them, it'll give you coordinates to a physical location in the world, and this kind of thing. They've had things like that before.
Almost like geocaching?
I don't know if I know what that is.
So geocaching is kind of like you hide coordinates in a location. You have to find them. Then
I think they probably, I'm sure some of those utilized aspects like that. The idea was there was a game, and it would like sometimes like I've read about a couple like notable ones that it's almost like a classic legend at this point, almost an urban legend, but of these games that someone anonymously set up, and tons of people across the world played them, I guess. But there's also been things like of a recent nature where there are little games you can pick up a little app where the game will send you a text in the version of a character. And a character will be in contact with you through your social media or through your text, or they'll give you phone calls, and you'll have to go through a thing. I think the most obvious application is like a thriller, like maybe this person is missing or whatever, or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, the point is that it's pretty minimal right now. But eventually they probably will figure out a better way to use it. And you're right. What if the setup is that you're in your house, you put on your virtual reality set, and then you can virtually get up and walk out the door? What if they could program that all into a...
Yeah.
Now, that may be way extreme, and that's most definitely way, way, way down the road, but I don't see that as unforeseeable. I don't see that as impossible. I honestly think the next step of virtual reality, not the very next step, but a step somewhere along the way, may really be interacting with the virtual world. Consider it the Matrix.
Maybe a set of Google glasses with cell service, and basically it just adds the Pokemon you're trying to catch, and maybe you have some sort of like Bluetooth sensitive ring with a gyro sensor, and you could be like, gotta catch them all.
Heck, the PS5 is getting a virtual headset next year that's supposed to track eye movement.
Ooh, scary.
Well, my point is that alone could be enough to. I mean, they've already got the tech. Then it seems to to incorporate some of that of body movement. It wouldn't be so hard.
Who knows?
I'm sure that at some point there will be a mobile version of the VR headset where you won't even need a television screen. You won't need, you won't need a console. It's all in the set.
Wonder if you'll still get the warning not to play in traffic.
I cannot foresee a way. That'll be the main problem of ever coming up with this kind of stuff. And I can't foresee a way that it'll ever be adapted where there won't be an article within a month later.
Or like two kids playing like
3 people
Fallout.
have died so far.
Yeah, two kids playing like Fallout, I don't know, 69 on their VR augmented reality headsets find an actual dead body. You remember that story with Pokemon Go? No. These kids were like going through the woods catching Pokemon and they found a body.
They stand by meat?
Stand by Mewtwo.
Shoot, how many people died when Planking came out?
Not enough, I'll tell you that.
Okay. Number 3, motion sensing. So here's one that's been around for a while. Obviously, the Wii tried to do quite a bit with that. Every gaming system for the last few generations has tried to utilize motion sensing, and I think for the most part they've all realized that it's dumb, it's gimmicky, and it's dumb, and it's enjoyable for about a couple minutes, and then you're like, oh crap, I gotta play every game all day like this. There's a reason that the Wii U didn't incorporate the same, motion sensing.
Yeah.
There's a reason that games on the PS3 started out with the six-axis so heavy-like, and by the end of it, maybe there'd be a bit of motion here or there. Now, games are still using it. Hell, that Harry Potter Wizards Unite game.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a small thing. I think when you're making potions or whatever, you can amplify the results of the potion, and one of the options, like you have to make strokes on the screen or whatever, and one of them's to shake it. I mean, there's things like that here and there that are still using but right now, I mean, I don't know if the Kinect's still around, but
coming to a Goodwill near you.
But right now, motion sensing's pretty dead, and honestly, I think this one's on its way out, but I could see it being picked up later on to be used in conjunction with VR.
Yeah.
I don't. Obviously, like you're saying, attaching to the nerve's crazy. But if you could attach it literally to the body, attach some sort of sensor that would just read movement. Yeah. That alone. Although maybe they will attach it to nerves.
Was it bionic? But yeah, I agree for some of what you said, but I think motion sensing is going to become more relevant in the future, just because it adds that extra bit of dimension to the games. And ultimately, when people design games, like they want to design something that's fun, they want to design something that immerses your mind. And indie developers probably not going to notice it so much, but things like PSVR, Oculus, things like that, it is pretty critical to have motion controls and motion sensing. So the issue now is that you're very limited. So yeah, I believe that once you're able to incorporate some more body movement and some more articulation and things like that, it's going to get much better, and from there, it's going to be used more often. I don't think we're anywhere near the times where a Nintendo Power Glove is a good idea or anything like that, but I think in the future it will become more relevant, but much like augmented reality, I don't think it has matured enough to a point where the average consumer is going to benefit from it and want to use it. I agree. My Wii, I love Twilight Princess. I love Wii Bowling, but I'll play them like once in a blue moon just because
He
it's
uses
a
the
lot of
GameCube
movement.
controller.
Actually, that is a good idea. I'll probably will play through Twilight Princess with the
And
GameCube controller.
that's kind of my point. Given the choice any day.
Well, I feel like
it's fun, but it's fun in the right mood. It's fun in the right moment. It's not fun as a forever mechanic.
Yeah, it's fun to watch your friends like go to bowl and they throw the ball behind them and everybody jumps and yells, "Yay!" But
when I'm by myself, I'm trying to play a blockbuster game and just chill out. I'm not trying to stand up and get a workout. I just want to veg on the couch.
And speaking of vegging on the couch, I feel like that segues pretty well into number 4, which is streaming. Now, we're not talking about game streaming, just because that hasn't really become
the idea of cloud-based streaming titles.
Who knows? When Google Stadia comes out, maybe we'll be rehashing this conversation in the future.
I think that it probably may become a staple of gaming, but the fact that I have to say probably means it's right now not a fixture.
Yeah. But as far as video streaming, it absolutely is not going anywhere. Like, I think, honestly, in the next couple years, we're going to drop quite a few streaming services, and things are going to change as you know it. Like, I honestly don't look for Netflix to be a thing in 4 years. Hulu's going to be probably Disney Plus, and there's Amazon videos already in the
Disney
dumpster. Like, if it wasn't for Grand Tour and a couple others, I don't think Amazon would still have a video service. But
Amazon's useless.
I think the names are going to change, but the service is still going to stay very, very relevant and very, very active. And will something else replace it? Honestly, unless it's a direct feed into your brain, I don't know how anything would replace it. I mean, gone are the days of like going and getting physical media for your movies and stuff. Like, there's still Redbox and whatnot, but
still game junkies.
We're not talking about that yet.
Yeah, we're talking about Twitch streaming.
Yeah.
Streaming games.
No, we're talking about
We're not talking about Netflix.
But were you talking about like streaming on Twitch and stuff with this?
Yeah, well, that's what I meant.
I thought you were talking about Netflix and whatnot. Okay,
well,
so
no, I mean obviously because I mean it's not gaming, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, that is. I mean, we're seeing a lot of movement already. Netflix will be dead by the end of the decade. I'm almost certain of it. But you're seeing Disney Plus come in. They just bought out Fox and they got Hulu. Mm-hmm. And they'll rearrange that for their adult entertainment. And you got NBC, which will make their own. And you got Time Warner, which will make their own. They just NBC is the one, right? And they just pulled The Office, pulled Friends from Netflix. That site's gonna be a graveyard.
Yeah, it really is
in the future. But no. Not talking about cloud-based gaming, but I was talking about the idea of streaming a video game, which I mean it's the same general concept.
Yeah, I don't think Twitch streaming's going anywhere. I think Twitch is still relatively in its infancy. Seeing how far YouTube has come, gives me hope that Twitch still has a lot of life in it. And with other programs like Mixer and Facebook Live becoming a little more popular, YouTube still, their live service isn't on par with the rest of them. You can tell that it's an add-on. They're still working through things. That's why we moved the podcast here, just because I can have stuff like Streamlabs set up. And
are you saying YouTube's live?
Yeah, YouTube's live's not quite there yet, but honestly, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
streaming service as a whole, I really look to dominate the entertainment space. Outside of actually playing games and whatnot, but being entertained, like watching Netflix, watching Twitch, stuff like that. I think it's going to end up just completely obliterating cable TV, anything like that, and
It almost, I'm thinking about it now.
probably already has.
This topic it's a terrible idea, but I'm gonna have to do some thinking on the fly for this because I did some already, but I've got some half-baked theories I'm gonna try out. And here's one: I wonder if some of these streaming services that'll be coming out, that'll be streaming video, they'll be streaming the titles that you would have seen on cable. Your Disney Pluses, your NBC Universals, I wonder if they'll try to approach the interactive streaming elements as well, the user-generated streaming. I wonder if they'll try to create a base with that. If any of them will try to do a mix. We'll have some professional content for viewing, but also have some user-generated content for viewing that users could. And honestly, if one of these sites went for that, they might be able to do really, really well, possibly even enough to compete with YouTube, to actually push YouTube out of the way. But,
Yeah.
I would say that streaming's not going anywhere, of course. That if anything, it's only getting bigger. It just got here. As far as though, what's the future? What would it even transition into? I can't really figure that out because when it comes to things like Twitch and streaming games, I don't fully understand why it's successful, if I'm being honest. And it's because, well, for me, I thought the whole point of video games is their interactivity. And that's, well, really not an option when you're watching the video. But we've seen this, and we've even seen commentary on it from things like South Park about about folks watching a stream of a game rather than just playing it for themselves.
Yeah.
That they will choose to watch the stream over. And I actually wonder if it's because the way we consume media nowadays, we're so focused on the critique, I guess. That everything's based on the past. Everything's an analysis, a satire, a commentary on things that have come before. Look at all these young folks that are our age that are so focused on the 90s nostalgia. Look at all these shows like Stranger Things and It and things focused on the 80s. Yeah, Bruno Mars and Meghan Trainor and all these artists that incorporate older styles of music into the pop music they're putting out. Rather than just be its own thing, it almost seems like this decade is a rehash, but ultimately a commentary on the things before it.
Yeah, I think people generally do have like a little bit of nostalgia, but I feel I'm starting to understand the whole appeal to Twitch and everything. Not just because I've been on here streaming, but a lot of it does have to do with community. And when you watch your favorite actors, you can't comment live on the movie. Like, you can't get their attention from the movie. YouTube, it got us a little bit closer, and you could comment on it. You could interact with other people and have discussion. But really, it wasn't until live streaming came about that it really opened the doors for people to kind of have that one-on-one interaction with whoever it is they're watching, or interact with the rest of the crowd. I mean, just as, we've actually had a really good turnout this stream.
Yes, we have.
And we've had a lot of chatting going on. And to me, that's what it's all about, is the community aspect the raffles. But that is why I think it's going to stay, is it's so much more interactive.
Yeah, and I agree. Definitely the community is a part of it. But it's also, I think PewDiePie may not be at the top anymore, but he once was
top 2 or 3.
Yeah, whatever. And the idea is that people would, rather than play the game and then go watch him play the game, or watch the thing and then watch him watch the thing.
You.
They would watch him play the game. They would consume his consumption of the media.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just they want to be entertained. Like, they want to laugh at his goofy jokes and, like, silly noises and things like that.
Well, yeah. And I agree. I get that. It just... Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting to me. It's something I got to think about more.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we've got like freaking 6 more topics.
Yeah, we've got halfway. Are we gonna have to part 2 this? So
yeah, really.
We could, but let's rush it a little. Solo campaign only games was our number 5. The idea being games that don't utilize a multiplayer function, that all they offer is a single player experience. I actually think that for the most part, this is pretty much done. I haven't really... there are games here and there that, in particular genres too, that may not have a multiplayer function. They may just be a solo campaign. Maybe some JRPGs in that. For example, the remake of Final Fantasy VII that's coming out, that may not have multiplayer. But at the same time, I could also see it having multiplayer. It does seem like, for the most part, every game has something of it to some degree, and I think maybe very rarely we'll see it without, but I think for the most part it's an extreme rarity. I think it's gone.
I don't agree. So I feel like single campaign or solo campaigns are still just as popular as ever. I know several people that they're like, oh, it's online, I don't want to play it. Or if it does have some sort of online functionality, they don't use it. Solo campaign is great way to... How do I put this? Single player. Solo campaigns tend to have longer, more thorough, more thought out storylines, and I feel like that group of gamer is still very, very much active and very, very much like backing these projects with their wallets. And I think we see it more and more kind of coming up through the indie side. But there still are some really big name AAA people making single player campaigns.
Give me one.
Give you one? So, I gotta think on it.
Uh-oh.
You put me on the spot. What was that freaking rat game that just came out? I
actually don't know what you're talking about.
Dang it, man.
Rat game.
Yeah, it's something Vermintide or something like that. It's single player.
AAA game?
I'd say that one might not be fully AAA. It might be like AA.
By the way, I'm not saying that I prefer solo campaigns.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I feel like that's not a selling point alone anymore. That the companies feel, because so many people want to be online and want to be interacting, that they have to have, that even if there's a portion that would play the game solo, that it's not enough in the package. Which is why you always see these tacked on, half-baked multiplayer. Yeah. But not necessarily. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to have to do some more research on like games that have come out here super recently.
As of now, I disagree.
But I do disagree. I don't think it's going to go away or it's on its way out the door. I mean, you can't argue with the fact that it has dropped off. I mean, it used to be NES, pretty much 8 out of 10 games were single player. Like your Zeldas and stuff like that.
Well, it used to be the only way.
Yeah.
Granted, that part of that's because back then the internet wasn't really an applicable
Oh, someone's home.
thing. Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I agree to disagree. I think solo campaigns are here to stay. But talking about some of those old titles, or did you? I didn't want to cut you off. Did you?
No.
Okay.
We should definitely keep moving.
Yes. So used games. This I'm actually a little concerned about. So as some of you may know, I do enjoy my used game selection here, and especially retro games. I'm feeling the push to physical media disappearing. I know many people who have PS4s and like they've tacked on the external hard drives and everything and put crazy capacities in them just so they don't have to buy physical media.
Yeah.
Because it does. It takes up space. It's one more thing you have to dust. Like, you have to worry about discs getting scratched and then paying to get them repaired. And, like, a lot of people would just rather have it floating up in the cloud. And if they want to reinstall it, they click one button and it does it.
Which, by the way, there's something about that puts a lot of anxiety in me. The idea that I don't have it on hand.
Right.
That it's out there somewhere. That I have to trust that whenever I want it back, I can get it back.
Like, what if my account gets broken into? Like, do all my games disappear? Like, I get it.
I mean, I'm sure that it's pretty well secure, but I can't help but feel that bit of...
Yeah. And it does take the control out of your hands. Like, Nintendo can't take my copy of Super Mario World away. I own that. I have it. It's here. But at what point, say if a game like another Witch Trials happens for video games and they're like, oh, violent video games are not allowed, they're bad. Like, does your game just disappear because it's on the ban list for the states? Like, you know, it does take a lot of control out of your hands. But honestly, I see the push and I see the motivation to ditch the cart or ditch the discs and just work off of downloaded media. My PC games, I have 6 games up there, but I have 100 on my Steam account. Like,
Yeah,
so
definitely. I think used games aren't going to go anywhere unless the companies finally do decide to put in practices that will eventually or virtually eliminate the ability to play a game used.
Yeah.
Then, like they were talking about with the Xbox One and the PS4, about tying it to your account, about so that once that game's played, you own it and no one else can own it, and there's no such thing as a used game anymore in that concept. But otherwise, no. I mean, there will always be returns and cheaper installments. And what I do see going away would be used game stores, though. Particularly franchises. GameStop is not gonna be around by the end of the. Not by.
I'll be shocked if we have.
I keep saying by the end of the decade.
Year.
I mean by the end. I mean a decade from now is what I mean. Because they could be gone in a year. They're definitely gonna go the way of Blockbuster. There's no doubt about it. But that is, by the way, I've seen some people say it's because of all this extra they try to do. No. They were already hurting. That's why they implemented all that extra invasion of privacy. Can we sell you this crap, please? Begging stuff.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that online has made it immensely more convenient, immensely cheaper to purchase used games. There's really no reason to go retail and get physical copies or go out to get your copies anymore, which is going to make it tougher for companies like Game Junkies as well. But the one thing they have going for them is that they're a local business, and that what they do, rather, as being not a franchise, they try to build a communal aspect to them. It's It's about talking to the folks behind the counter. It's about having an experience when you go, and for that, they'll be able to get support from the community around them. But they'll probably still have a tough time in years to come, as honestly, it's just cheaper and more convenient to order online.
Yeah. And speaking of some of these old games, so it used to be to have an adventure game, you were tied to
text-based.
Yep.
Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, text-based and 2D. I mean, you didn't have 3D space to explore, and if you did, the capacities of the hardware didn't allow you to have big spaces. So this style of gameplay called point-and-click adventure games was born out of this. So basically, you would either scroll on pre-made artwork, and you would click here, and it'd be like, oh, you found a letter. This letter tells you to go to this room, enter this combination. And then you would just click the arrows until you find the picture of that room, and then you click on the save, enter the combination, things like that. Zork, it was all text-based. Yep. So you were like, walk left, and it's like you walked into a wall, stupid. And you had to navigate your way without actually seeing. Once game hardware became relevant enough to kind of support 3D space, that's where this has kind of fallen to the wayside. And with the question of, will this be eradicated? I don't think it'll be completely gone. So this has a very nostalgic value to it. Kind of like, people play retro games. Well, people love their point-and-click adventure games, especially on PC. Yeah. Sierra Games had a ton of point-and-click games amongst like other companies. But indie developers are starting to kind of pick these up and make their own. Like, I believe Vanishing of Ethan Carter was an indie game. There was another one that was fairly recent. I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, so I don't think they're going to completely disappear. There's always going to be kind of that niche of people who want to play these things, and they'll find the people to make them. But I don't think they're going to be common enough to where you're really going to see them like advertised in like big spaces, like, oh, check out this new point-and-click adventure game. Like, probably the closest you'll find to that is an RTS. So,
I actually think they're on the way out. And I actually, because what I actually think you'll find the closest to them is adventure games of today. I mean, for one thing, text-based adventure games grew into, your point-and-click adventures, but they also eventually grew into just adventure in general, just any kind of game that, I don't know, orients you into that big world space for exploration is adventure. But you have some games that are strictly adventure games like Until Dawn, or the Quantic Dream games like Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
Where you're making your multiple paths. Or you have games like, I think Vanishing of Ethan Carter is more like a modern adventure game, isn't it? It's the 3D styling. It's you're exploring your environment, but it's not exactly a point and click.
Yeah,
it's not a
true.
Run your cursor over. It's and in the same way, there's games like Gone Home, which the bulk of that story, it's not told through a narrative as you go, but rather it's you're in your childhood home, I think. And I mean, it's things like Post-it notes and bills and pictures on the wall. They tell the story. Games like these, that's where adventure games are going, I think. That's these immersive, almost meant for VR style games. Your point and clicks, though, you've got your Tim Schafer's, your Double Fines. Tim Schafer is Double Fine. But the point is that, he's a big deal, but I think he's a big deal in the sense that he's a big deal of a era that's come and I think gone. A Broken Age wasn't put out that long ago, maybe a handful of years ago, but I think occasionally you'll see a point and click, but I think when you see them, there'll be more to them. It won't be a straightforward, pure point and click adventure, but there'll be something to make of it. Like recently, in the same way that text adventure games are gone, but recently there was a game that sort of played with the idea of text adventure games, and you start out in a black room, and I don't know all the gist of it, but the point is it's not a straightforward, because the technology has surpassed it. There's no sense in keeping it so simple. The only reason to go out of your way to play a game like that is if it offers something new. And I do think that point-and-click adventure games have entered into that realm. I like them. I'm actually just now playing through some of them and finally getting around to some of the classics. But honestly, I don't foresee them. If you would even qualify them as still around, I don't foresee them lasting for very much longer.
Yeah, and another technology that's been around 30, 40 some odd years are consoles. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I don't think the consoles themselves are going to disappear just because you need some sort of medium in which to access and play your games. I feel like that's going to be around for a long, long, long time.
Well, there's
But
PC.
I do think, well, I mean, you could technically call a PC a console.
You
Like, I
could.
know a lot of people that have a PC that all it does is play games.
Yeah, and you definitely could, but I think there's a pretty obvious distinction between.
Yeah, and and what I was gonna say, which I think is kind of alluding to where you're going, is I think we're gonna have some shakeups along the way, some like non-conventional consoles that are gonna arise. Like 3DS came out, sold amazing like the first month or two, and then it just tanked, and they're like, what the heck's going on? Well, Nintendo got to looking, and the iPhone came out. And of course, you know, with the iPhone came the App Store and all of these $1, $2, $3, even free games. So I think we're going to see shakeups like that in the future where, you know, games are going to pop up on these places you can play them, and it's not going to be normal. I mean, I know a lot of people that game on tablets, on phones, stuff like that, PCs, but I don't think the actual console itself is going to disappear. If anything, it's going to evolve kind of like they have, where it's like a media station to where you can access your video streaming services, everything. Yeah, exactly, all in one. Smart TVs, I look for those to eventually incorporate like built-in consoles where you can play games. I think they kind of dabbled with it in the past, but it's not super common to the point where you're like, well, let me pull up the PlayStation app on my phone and play some like Killzone or something, or whatever kids play nowadays. But
whatever these kids are into.
But yeah, let me pull up the Warframes on my smart TV.
You guys have Pong? You still have Pong? I don't know why.
You kids, actually, I think Pong is down there with the Atari.
The Odyssey? You have the Odyssey?
Yeah. Oh goodness.
You know what? I think I'm a bit on the opposite of you on this one. I think that it's possible that within our lifetime that we could see the end of consoles, but I don't foresee it, and I don't even know. I mean, obviously the hardware will continue to upgrade and will evolve, but honestly, I think, and maybe some of these companies will transition around, but I think that they put too much money into these things. It's too much a part of their identity. Companies like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, it's too much a part of their identity for them to just drop it off. They drop it off, they're just losing too much. And so to that degree, I just think that our culture in video game culture is so charged with the idea of consoles. The marketing is so hit, and it's why you have these exclusives in the first place. That I just don't foresee consoles. Maybe one day, maybe it'll all be one system, but I don't see it.
It'll be a streaming service by the end of it,
Maybe.
I think. Once they figure out how to do like zero lag
Yeah,
streaming. And like I said,
that's
that kind of
possible. I suppose that companies could stop pushing hardware and start pushing software. Once the
like you buy
capabilities-
your GameFlix account and your TV comes with a controller, or you can buy a controller and pair it with your TV,
pair it
whatever.
with your VR headset,
Yeah,
your VR bodysuit.
yeah, and then go outside and get run over by flying cars.
You put on your VR bodysuit and you hook it up to the rings, and then you push on the moving
Like DDR. You hook some jumper cables up to the old nipples, and then off you go. You're charged and ready.
There's like the floor, that a conveyor belt at your feet that
Yeah,
rolls
there you
around the ball.
Play VR on the treadmill. No, because then that'd be too much work. It would be just like the Wii. People get it and they're like, it was cool for a week, and then I lost 10 pounds.
Man, if I could
Turn back time.
if I could walk an apocalyptic landscape, if I could slay a dragon, if I could fight in a war, maybe.
No, because then we would have kids with like PTSD over a video game.
Do we not already? Are not the youth triggered by everything?
It's the same youth that eats Tide Pods. Just saying.
It's because I have PTSD.
Gotta stop eating the Tide Pods.
Some people have the respect not to mention it. I did it one time.
He plugged them. Tide Pod in suppository form.
Thank you. But yes, I do it. Not Tide Pod suppositories. I would virtual reality my ass off. I would lose that poundage if it was about being that immersed. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, that's a way where, yes, motion sensing is gimmicky.
Yeah.
But that's because you're not really immersed. This doesn't feel like you're connected to what you're doing. And in fact, part of the reason that the Wii got so old is because the technology wasn't totally good enough.
Yeah.
So there was some desynchronization between the...
Somebody
It was frustrating.
totally needs to clip that and just like slide it in the chat there. The motion of you doing that. Oh, Lord. Okay. Whew. Man. All right. So, with consoles, probably the biggest household name is Nintendo.
Yeah.
That's a good question because
They've already been around forever.
they've been around
How much ever do they have left?
forever. And I don't know. Like, I feel
There
like...
are no doubt kids that play games that don't know of what's come before Nintendo. That to them, they think that is the earliest thing. Hell, there are probably some that think that the Super Nintendo was the first console ever made, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
saw one time.
They saw it in a museum.
They heard about that before from the granddad.
Yeah, that's like the Game Boy that freaking got burnt up, like in a space shuttle or something, and it still works in a museum. Like, but anyway, so Nintendo. I honestly, I don't know how much that horse has to run before it's put down, but honestly, like the Switch has done really, really well. The Wii U did okay for a while. The Wii sold phenomenally. And then it's like they go up. Like at the very beginning, they were riding high. Like they were number one. And then it kind of bit them in the butt when they wouldn't work with third parties very well.
Yeah.
And then they accidentally gave birth to the PlayStation. And then it's like they started dropping, they tank, they come back up, they tank, and it's just like, oh, there we go. You can no longer enter the raffle. Raffle's closed.
Oh.
But I think we had one entry, which makes picking the winner super easy. But
Congratulations.
yeah. And but anyway, so they've been up and down, up and down, up and down, and honestly, I don't foresee them being around a lot longer. I think eventually they're going to give in to the peer pressure that they've been receiving, where they should just work on software and not hardware. And who knows, like maybe 10 years from now we'll be playing Mario on the Xbox and PlayStation or on PC or something like that.
Well, what if there's no more Mario? Yeah, I actually agree. It's kind of weird to think that these iconic characters that we all know so well, these iconic figures, I mean, these games are classics by their own right. And it's kind of weird to think. I mean, probably Nintendo has more exclusives than either of the other two large companies put together, probably. But yeah, they've been proving for a while that, and I think it's because of this. I think it's because of how the treasured they are in the video game community that they haven't burnt out by now. Because they haven't proven to be able to adapt well to the new age. And they were starting to dip pretty hard for a while. Now they did have that return to form to some degree with the Switch. Had some great success with that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think if the next thing they put out isn't at least as good, if not greater than, I think they'll just fall even harder and faster.
You mean the Switch Lite?
Is that what?
No, it's kind of like an second gen. It's, if you look at it from like a TikTok cycle, it's kind of on the top.
Every generation of a console has some variations on it.
How many did the DS have?
The
Like
PlayStation has like the same couple every time. They have a standard,
slimmer.
and they got a slim, they got a... Did they do the fatty?
They got a thick
Everyone
boy.
got a thick boy. But yeah, regardless, I think that, honestly, I think maybe within a decade, I think Nintendo might be out of here.
Yeah.
They might still be around, but I think they'll be on the ropes, and I think I honestly think within at least 2 decades, I think they'll be gone.
Yeah.
Which is arguably 2 to 4 generations of hardware.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that by that point, yeah, I don't think they'll be here anymore.
Which brings up our last and final
And maybe most fitting.
topic.
Yes.
And that is video games in general.
Are they timeless? Will they last forever, Curtis?
I honestly think they're timeless. Especially for the foreseeable future, because it used to be like, you play video games? Like, what a nerd. And, I mean...
And now your mother plays Candy Crush.
Now your mom has an addiction and massive credit card debt due to Candy Crush.
Due to Farmville. Is that a thing anymore?
There goes your inheritance. But anyway, so... I honestly don't think video games are going anywhere anytime soon. It's become so common. I mean, you even have people like Terry Crews, Post Malone, like all of these big celebrities are playing games.
Do you know Mila Kunis plays World of Warcraft?
I did not know that.
I was just thinking about it. I read that years ago.
Nice. I honestly wouldn't doubt it. I mean, heck, even Bernie Sanders has a Twitch account. Not that he's going to be playing any games other than, like... I don't think he's going to play games.
Real life Pong, table tennis, is that?
Yeah. But anyway,
The Pong with the ring in it.
with it being so relevant, so big, so huge now, I mean, it's raking in billions of dollars annually. It's not going anywhere. Again, we're going to see a change of companies. We're going to see a change of, like, how it's done. I mean, there was a time and place where parallaxing in a game was like, oh, the best thing ever. Like, it's so revolutionary. Like, you walk and the backgrounds move at different speeds, man. I mean, technology is constantly going to change. You can't stop it.
The landscape will transform, will terraform. But
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's here to stay, and I think we'll have plenty to talk about for years to come.
I would say I would agree. I just like any other medium. Yeah, I mean books will be well. Books might not even. But here's the thing: unlike other, it's the only entertainment medium that actually has interactivity. That's the thing it has going for it, and that's the thing that separates it from, say, film or television. Is that it's the video and audio, sure, but it's the fact that you're playing a game.
Well, the new Black Mirror has interactivity with it.
Let's get serious.
We're talking about serious stuff here, like video games, nerd.
But there's no challenge. I'm just kidding. I don't know. You can debate that till the cows come home. You can debate what is and what isn't a video game, but the fact of the matter is that the interactive audio visual, that'll be around forever, and the flavor will change. I could see a day, not while I'm alive, but where, although, if only, but where you do plug into your mind, you play the game here. And I suppose in that sense, you might technically not call it a video game anymore because that video component's not there. You're interacting with your own head, but the essence of what is the video game would still be alive. That interactive challenge.
I'm feeling a very, very like Wall-E aspect where like we're just like potatoes, like laying on the couch, and everything's just like displayed in front of us.
Think Wall-E meets Matrix.
Wall-E.
There'll be like I guess the robots will do it for us. Thanks, robots.
Yeah.
Please don't kill us.
Robot waifus.
But yeah, to sum it all up, yes, I think that video games in one form or another will always be here.
The
end.
Agreed. With that being said, holy crap, my throat is so scratchy.
Yeah.
Like, whew.
This was a long one. Thank you all for holding in there. And we would love to hear your own answers to these questions, your own input. So,
yes. So, join us for the next one and input your responses, or find us, mainly me, because John has no social media skills. I do need to put a link up to our Discord.
yes.
We do have a Discord at least.
Hey, which is kind of what this would be for.
Yeah, we'll put that on the list of to-do things. Like,
so when we're prepared, we'll give you a place to talk with us.
yeah, but
We'll let you know when we get on that.
yes. But with all that being said, that I feel pretty good. I think we have successfully pulled off a podcast. I dare say, the best podcast we've ever done.
I think we pulled off two.
So yeah. Thank you all for sticking it out and hearing us talk about the permanence of video game constructs. I feel so official saying that. Anyway, I'm going to get off here. All right, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.
See ya.